We are thrilled you're here. We know why many of you are here. It's good to see some faces in the crowd that we don't normally see. You're welcome to come back any month. We meet here at this time, the third Monday of each month, for a program, 7 o'clock or 7:07 sometimes. We're glad you're here. Just to remind you of some of our upcoming meetings. Next month, Roxanne Jenkins from Clarksville Parks and Recreation, Fort Defiance, Associate Interpreter. I think I've got your title right. Roxanne will be here to give a program on Smith Traherne Mansion, the history and preservation of a cultural resource. And as you know, Smith Traherne is about to undergo some wonderful, long-needed renovations to keep that going strong for another 170 years. And that's our September meeting. That's September 16th. Our October meeting, October 21st, Tammy Hall, local storyteller, will be back for more spooky tales. So come for that. That's a very entertaining time. Our November program, Dick Gilder and Phil Kimberly will have the program called The Quest for Severe Station. And there's a longer title about maybe debunking some things that have been said about Severe Station over the years, maybe with new evidence or new data. I don't know any more than that, so I'm looking forward to what they have found and what they have to say as well. And then, as usual, our December meeting here, December 16th, will be our Christmas dinner. No announced program other than we typically give out historic preservation awards at that Christmas dinner. It's more of a social event and a great potluck. I can't show it to you here, but I will tell you that those of you who occasionally look at our website or used to look at our website, we have a new website to tell you about. The address is very similar to the old one, but instead of .org on the end, it's now net. So mchsociety.net is our new website, up and running. Most of the pieces are there, and we look forward to growing a new experience to showcase history in Clarksville and Montgomery County. So give it a look and see what you think. I wanted to make everyone aware of an unveiling of a historic marker that's coming up soon. Saturday, August 31st, there will be a marker unveiled for Howard Smiley Johnson. The person behind that effort is Thomas Murph, who is here tonight. Thomas is a life member of the Historical Society as well. So you may see advertisements for this event on our Facebook page, but this is Thomas's baby. He's done all the hard work, a year-long effort it takes to get a historical marker. So again, that's Saturday, August 31st, 10 a.m. at the corner of Haynes and Madison Streets. And the easy landmark there is Whataburger. It's in the corner of the Whataburger lot. Howard Smiley Johnson was born in Nashville, 1916, but he grew up here in Clarksville in an orphanage. He was known for being great in athletics, baseball, basketball, boxing, football during his youth at Clarksville High. He played college football at Georgia and went on to play for the Green Bay Packers in 1940 and 41. Married his college sweetheart, had a baby girl. But when World War II broke out, Smiley, along with many, joined the services. He joined the Marines, served with I Company, 3rd Battalion, 23rd Marines of the 4th Marine Division. He earned a Silver Star at the Battle of Kwajalein, but at the Battle of Iwo Jima, he was fatally wounded, died as a result of his wounds, earned a posthumous 2nd Silver Star. So, historic marker will be unveiled Saturday the 31st, 10 a.m. for Smiley Johnson. Whataburger will be giving away food samples and discussing one of their outreach programs. I think the CHS football team has plans to be there. The VFW will be there. I hope you will come out and support the unveiling of that new historical marker. You may have seen notice in the paper that the train station renovations are finally proceeding. There are bids out right now, I believe, for contractors interested in renovating the train station, so we look forward to what that is going to be to keep that building alive and thriving as well. A couple of history events coming up. Severe Day at Fort Defiance, which is an annual event of reenactors, craftspeople, musket firing, etc., is Saturday, September 14th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then Parks and Rec is also hosting at Smith Trayer Mansion Victorian Morning Customs with County Historian Carolyn Farrell. The date for that is Saturday, September 21st. That one requires registration, and there's a $15 charge for that, but there are two sessions that day, Saturday, September 21st. So morning session and an evening session. Pick which one you want to attend for $15. And just from early pictures, what Roxanne's got up her sleeves, she's pulling out all the stops to have a wonderful event there at Smith Trayer. Is there any other business that needs to come before the society before we get to our program? Ski.
I got 3 different flyers here on my table. It's just, anybody come out here, one's about September 7th program about the point of land between the Tennessee and the Big Sandy River. And it's a book signing, and it's a program that you need to make a reservation for that one also. There is a charge for that one. And then the first weekend in October, John Walsh has his military relic displays at the Stewart County Visitor Center, and it fills a big room up there. And then this Saturday at Cross Creek, there's a hummingbird banding, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Yep, there are flyers here in front of Steve for those events. Thank you. Anything else before we get started? All right, I'm going to ask at this time if our Vice President, Sandra Stacy, will introduce our speaker.
I had something written out, but it got published, so I dug some more stuff out. Cleo is a lifetime member of the Historical Society, and he's also past president of the Society. He's an expert genealogist. He was born in on his Hogan County Century Farm in Montgomery County. He went to school at Sango Elementary and graduated from Clarksville High School. And then he went to Austin Peay, majoring in math and physics. He was in the Air Force from 1969 to 1978 and became a weather officer after graduate studying from University of Michigan. He spent a year in Korea forecasting typhoons. From 1979 to 1984, he was a meteorologist, okay, at the National Climatic Data Center in Asheville, North Carolina. In 1987, he completed his law degree in the University of Memphis. He worked with many other law firms, and after 26 years, he opened his own law firm, and he specializes in Social Security and disability law. And he's married to Donna. And I guess that's all I have that hasn't already been said about him. Oh yeah. He was the recipient of a Tennessee 2000 Bicentennial Certificate of Appreciation in 1994 from the Governor Ned McWhorter for leading the acquisition and installation of 1955 historical cemetery road signs across Montgomery County. And he received the Montgomery County Historical Society Cemetery Preservation Award in 2021. Okay, everybody welcome Cleo.
Thank you. Can you hear me in the back there? I don't walk very well anymore at this age, so I may have to sit down after a bit. But I'll try standing up here for a little while. I'm excited to see so many people out interested in dead people. My wife's not even here because she says she's not interested in hearing any more about dead people. But I find them very cooperative and very easy to deal with. So some of you all think the same, or else you're just curious about this sort of thing. But I'm going to try to hold this to about 30 minutes. It's hard to cover all we need to cover in 30 minutes, but I was asked to cover 250 years in 12 minutes about 3 months ago in North Carolina, and I was able to do that, 250 years in 12 minutes. And people laughed twice, so I think I was a success. So we're going to try and move right along. I am going to slow down now and then. Many of you know much of what I'm going to tell you because cemetery studies is really just common sense. It's really just common sense. But common sense is not well received these days, and so there are a lot of people who don't have any or didn't grow up with it, or who have lost it. So I put on the table the things I take with me and that you will need to think about putting on in your bag of tricks if you're going out to find your relatives in a cemetery. Several of you do that. Several of you have helped me do that. On the left table in front of you are the 3 books on Montgomery County cemeteries at the very front there, volume 1 in 1968 when I got serious about this. 52% of that book is my own work. There were 4 of us that were authors of it. I'm the last person standing. Ms. Darnell and Ms. Jones have passed long ago, and Ms. Alley passed not too long ago, but volumes 1, 2, and 3 are in the library. The third one I didn't have anything to do with. The first 2 ladies that are on there did. It's the District 4 cemeteries at Fort Campbell. And Bill, this is Bill, my assistant. If you will hold up that map, cardstock map on the next table, this is what we used and was put inside volume 1. It has the list of cemeteries that are in volume 1, designated by the district that they're located in. We use those old districts for this purpose and for voting purposes, for many purposes, even after reapportionment and the change of the voting registration, the voting places, polling places that you go to vote. I think I'm now in District 3, but it's been District 10 since about 1836, when the first districts were set up in 1836. We lost 2 districts to Cheatham County. We didn't lose them. We gave them to whoever it was that was setting up Cheatham County in the southeast corner, which is why that line is not north-south anymore. It comes back towards the river to the left. And yesterday, a few of us went, was it yesterday or the day before? Several of us, a carload of us, went out touring in that area to find what we could find out there from several families. Billy Ruth Nanny was there, Johnny Head was there, Thomas Murph met us for lunch, and we had a great day talking about dead people and where they're buried. There's lots of them out there. An important person named S.D. Power that nobody's heard of. Everybody wants to put an S on Power, but he didn't carry an S. His signature has no S on it, S.D. Power. He was a financier buried in Henrietta. His wife was Henrietta, oddly, Christmas. Her last name was Christmas from North Carolina, Henrietta Christmas Power. They're both buried in Henrietta. We didn't go there because there are other things around that cemetery that you don't want to see at this time of year. I've just been shown a probe that you can use that has a sharp point on it, and I think I'm going to see if I can arrange to get one because it looks like it'd be very handy when you meet those things that you don't want to see in the cemetery. We'll get to that in a minute. Those 3 books came out some years ago. There's talk of reprinting them, but it's never gotten done. And now that we have Find a Grave, you can find nearly anything you want on Find a Grave. One of the other books there is the Cheatham County Cemetery book in the center, Bill. right there, that was published some years ago. Any of y'all seen that? Anybody do any research in Cheatham County? It's a computerized product that came out at the same time we did a book here in Montgomery County people looking at the cemeteries in those two districts that we lost. I have the book, but I couldn't find it to bring it and show it to you. It's a pretty thick book, pretty nice. We're very proud of it. It's in the library also, and I think probably in the archives as well. So that's the Cheatham County book, and then there's a book there that Bill's got his hand on. That is that Stewart County? That's a copy of the Stewart County book that was put out several years ago. I believe it's since been reprinted, showing the cemeteries in Cheatham County and the text of the tombstones. So if you are interested in dead people in this county or the surrounding counties, there's the materials you need. When you go out to the cemetery, you want to do your research first and look at these books and figure out what's there. There are many of you, though, that are not from this area and don't have any ancestors here, but these rules, same rules apply elsewhere. There are several things over there on the table. Bill's just put his hand on a bottle of, or jar of something white. What's it say on that label?
All-purpose flour.
It says all-purpose flour. Have any of you heard of using flour in connection with tombstones? Anybody heard that? Good. Throw away your crayons. You're not going to use crayons to do rubbings anymore. And throw away your shaving cream. You're not going to need to use that anymore. Flour is superior to any other product, and it's not toxic, despite what the professionals in Massachusetts say. I've been a member of the Association for Gravestone Studies for about 40 years. They've only been in existence about 50, and I've got all their magazines and publications. They absolutely hate flour, but I've eaten it, and I'm still here. So you can take it from me, it's not toxic. They say it retains moisture, gets in the pores of the stone. That might be true in the case of sandstone, but when did you see a sandstone grave marker in this county or Stewart or any of the other counties right around here? Never. There's no such thing as sandstone gravestones in this area. Marble is pretty hard. It's not as hard as granite, but I've been using flour for about 50 years, and I've been back to those cemeteries 50 years later. There's no discernible problem. Only the shaling that occurs on some limestone where there's lots of what? Acid rain. In your manufacturing towns like Nashville, you find a lot of shaling of limestone in cemetery stones in the Nashville area. So use it with discretion. Know that the professionals advise against it, but I don't see the problem. In front of that table Bill's at, there's a green rod, heavy green rod. You'd be surprised at how many abandoned cemeteries have buried tombstones in them. And you need something that strong. If you notice, that one's slightly bent. We used it on a very heavy tombstone to try and turn it over so we could read what was on the back side. And sure enough, it did have writing on it, inscriptions on it. But you need one of those stuck away in case you're going to an abandoned cemetery. You won't need it in your normal maintained cemetery. And beyond that is a yellow probe with a handle on it that is used by the utility companies here in town to probe and look for water lines, septic lines, and other kinds of lines. This one is fiberglass, purchased, a commercial item, and you just stick it in the ground. After a rain, doing it before the rain is going to be difficult with hard ground as we've had lately. But after a rain, you can poke that in the ground 3 or 4 feet and find out where the soil is soft. In a cemetery, that'll be where a grave is, where the soil is soft. You can buy those, or if you have a friend who's does metal work, you may be able to find somebody who can make you one. And the gentleman here tonight has made a nice one for his wife that does double duty as a hiking stick, and you just take off the tip and suddenly there's a metal probe on the end. That particular one belongs to Thomas Murph, who has used it both in his job and for cemeteries. Let's see. What else is over there? We've got a pair of gloves, of course. Some of us who have soft hands from working with computers, not used to picking up huge, heavy rocks, so we need some leather gloves with us. Plus, it sort of protects you against the occasional snake that might be under there. You do need a brush at times to brush off the lichen that's on the tombstones, moss and lichen. Please never a wire brush. I do hope you've thrown away your wire brushes. Wire brushes are poison to tombstones. You need a bristle brush, fairly stiff, not a really soft one, but a fairly stiff bristle brush. No wire, just a bristle brush will do fine. What else is over there? There's a bottle of bug suppressant, I guess you call it. What's that? Some kind of lotion that's supposed to drive away mosquitoes. What's that called? Do you all recognize it? What is it? Hands so soft.
Skin so soft.
Skin so soft. It's been a while since I used it. Skin so soft. It'll run off the mosquitoes. And there's 3 or 4 bottles of cans of bug spray there because you might need quite a lot of it. Depending on where you go, there are places that have lots of mosquitoes where there's growth. And then using the flour, you may need a towel to wipe the flour off, or you can use a can there of tissue to wipe the flour off your hands, and you might need it for some other purpose as well. So you've got something to dry you there with. And there's a pair of a fork and a spoon, and it's got the cutters here to cut the vines. I was impressed when I went out with our county archivist some years ago, and she had those in her car. And she immediately raced towards the briars and began to snip them off and get the briars out of her way so she could get to the tombstones and to the cemetery. This was in New Providence, which has several abandoned cemeteries. There's a little cup that some of you find in the antique stores that if you need to have a drink of water, you can get a drink of water there. And there's a portable fork and spoon affair there that if you bring food with you, you can use that. And I believe that's all the tools that we brought that you will need. There's one other set of tools, and that's divining rods. There are divining rods. I meant to bring mine. I'm not good with them, but there are people who are very good with them. And if you think they're a lot of hoodoo, you need to think again, because they do work. They work on the I'm not a physicist, but I have a physics degree. They seem to work on discontinuities in the soil, density of the soil. In the grave site, the soil will not be as dense because it's not been laying there for thousands of years undisturbed. It has probably been plowed at some point in the past, and it's certainly been dug up where they buried somebody there and lightly put back down. And you know that because often there'll be depressions because the soil sinks with water over time, and so without a casket under it, they sink a lot. And so if you're looking for an old grave before the time of steel vaults, you may find depressions, and that's how we find the graves. It is not good to fill in those depressions because it hides where the grave is. So do not fill in the depressions, leave them alone, even though it makes mowing more difficult if you're trying to restore a cemetery. The divining rods work nicely. We know that because you can take somebody who's pretty good at it. There was a doctor in Illinois who used to come down here, whose name was Hunter. He's involved with the Hunter genealogy here in this area. If any of you know him, I can't think of his name right this minute, but he came down and spent a day teaching us how to use divining rods, he took off his shoes so he could make a clear contact with the soil in order to use the divining rods. They work very well, and you can put him in a cemetery that he's never been in. You know, tombstones normally have the writing on the, which side of the stone? Which side of the stone is the writing normally on? The west side. The west side, because the body is facing and the feet are pointing to the east, so that when the resurrection occurs, I guess, you can sit up and you'll be looking at the sun. And so, to avoid stepping on the grave, which is forbidden to do that, we don't do that. At least I was taught not to do that. You're going to be on the west side of the grave looking at the inscription on the west side of the stone. So your inscription should be on the west side. We have some infidels or some dumb people in my family who have not done that, and the writing is on the wrong side of the tombstone. But you normally can look at the compass and figure out which direction the stone is at. And so, getting back to the divining rods, we took the guy with his divining rods to a cemetery he'd never been in, dropped him out, and handed him his divining rods and said, tell us about this grave over here that has the writing on the west side. He only needs to look at the east side where the depression is. Is this male, female, child, or adult? And he spent a few minutes walking around, checking corners, and correctly said, this is a woman, an older woman. You look at the tombstone, the writing, it's an older woman. Did the same thing with the child. Place he'd never been, tombstone he'd never been to. He did the divining. The writing was on the other side. He couldn't see it, never seen it before. Is this a child or an adult? This is a child. Is it male or female? It's male. It's a male child. He was right again. It does work, trust me. I'm not good at it, but there are people who are. So, divining rods is something you might want to acquire. Back to the literature before you go out to the cemetery, the map that Bill held up a few minutes ago of the districts, it was contained in volume 1, and it lists all the cemeteries we knew about in volume 1, which I forget how many there are, but there's a lot in there, because we minimized the print in order to get a lot of data in that publication. And you might run across that map. There is a copy in the library also that can be copied. It's about, what, 25 past the hour? No, 35 past the hour. I've got a few more minutes.
And I'll go through the.
Pardon?
You want to sit and I'll go through the slides?
Okay. I have realized in getting this put together that Jim Long has been very helpful with this, because he's the person who put the slides together to show you pictures, because pictures are worth what? 1,000 words. 1,000 words. You're tired of hearing from me. So let's look at some pictures right quick, and I'll give you about 15 seconds or 30 seconds on each picture. I don't even know how many there are, but we won't stay all night. So let me sit down over here, and we'll take questions when we get through the pictures. Okay, let's see. I've got the control, do I? No, there we are. That's what you just looked at. I think you've seen everything but the bag that I carry stuff in that my wife weighed for me. Oh, there's a bottle of Clorox up there. Throw that away. We're not going to use Clorox. There's something called D2. Pretty expensive, but it works very nicely. You just pour it on the stone. It washes off with water. So no bleach, No metal scrapers, no wire brushes. That wire brush you see in the bottom, throw that away also. You don't want a wire brush. You're gonna change. Yeah, that's that. I'll try not to make you dizzy. I get dizzy when people do this because they move around. That's the wire brush, throw it away. That's the blowtorch, in case this doesn't work. You can feel better when you use a torch to get rid of those pesky mosquitoes. And there's the Clorox that we want to get rid of also. And of course, you never know when you're going to need an umbrella for rain, maybe sometimes even for heat. Can you change? This is a kind of tablet that you see. That particular one is in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, for somebody named Thomas Lloyd, who died before the Revolution, or died after the Revolutionary War, but was not involved. It's got a lot of errors on it that people put there in 1929, I think, or 31. Bad research, and it is not a tombstone, but it's being listed as a tombstone because nobody knows where it actually is buried. But that's a plaque you will see, and when it's got a lot of material on it, you might want to read it carefully and verify what it says. Go ahead with the next one. These are a place in Montgomery County called well, I forget the name of the community. It's a black community. This was a veteran who died in 1939 in a train accident in Guthrie after he got out of service. Zachariah Perkins. And the next stone, I believe, is also in that same cemetery. Elizabeth Hunter says gone but not forgotten. But I'm telling you, she's forgotten because she is in the boonies in the woods. Go in. This is the other marker. Sometimes you'll run across these. They never came back and put a marker up for her. Mrs. Langford, who died in 1951. That cemetery has not been used since that time. Next. This is a replacement stone. The old one is right here. Those pieces of shards are the original stone. I was there about 50 years ago, saw that stone standing up, shaling apart. And then when I went back about 20 years ago, this one had been put up. That's in Maury County, Tennessee. She died there in 1831. She was the widow of a Revolutionary War soldier who is buried in North Carolina. He never came over here. She and 5 sons came here to Maury County. Go ahead. This is a curious tale. I don't even think I can read that, but that's Frederick Stump's wife, one of Frederick Stump's wives. I think her name is Anne. Quite broken off on the corner, broken off on the top. It was found in Florida under a house, Frederick Stump, and she was originally buried in Nashville. That cemetery has been destroyed. But 2 years ago, a historic marker was put up out there, I forget the name of that road, for Frederick Stump. And the family was convinced the stone was now in Texas, in Houston, Texas, where a fellow went from, learned about it in Florida, went to Florida, got it, brought it back to Houston. It says ancestor, and Randy Pace, he's a Pace from here, but he descends from that Stump, who this was a grandson who manufactured what we call the lively lad. Have any of you all ever seen a lively lad, a weed cutter in Ashland City? That's the great-great-great-grandmother of the fellow that made the lively lad weed cutters. It is now, 2 years ago, we put it up in a nearby cemetery with permission of the people to keep that one up in a kept-up mode cemetery. So it is now back where it's supposed to be after going from Nashville to Florida to Houston, back to Nashville, and is now where it should be. Next. West Virginia, this is sandstone. S-H-A-Y-N-E, backwards S, was, see those two dots, was born October 21st, 1809, died, J-U-L, that's a Y, 2nd, 1850. That's an ancestor of mine in a little churchyard in Greenbrier County, West Virginia. There are 3 stones like that. Hers is still in almost perfect condition. The others are broke to pieces. Go ahead. And that's the busy cemeterian working the flower tombstone over here at Port Royal for Captain Christopher Norfleet Kearney. I'm not sure he was a Revolutionary War soldier or not. He lived about that time. Christopher Norfleet Kearney. All the black and white Kearneys from around here descend from him, I would say. At least 75% of them. That was taken some years ago. Go ahead. Now, can you read that? Not really. Let's see if it's another picture. Frank W. King, born March 22nd, 1865, died April 28th, 1896. 28th right there. Oh, 20th up there, yes. That's what flour does for you. Is that better? Now, I didn't talk about this, but, and there may be some developers in here, but now that I'm not practicing law anymore, I'm going to say what I think. Developers are the death of cemeteries. Land developers are the death of cemeteries. They will bulldoze them. If a dollar bill is thrown their way, they will bulldoze the cemetery. And that's what's happening. Preservation of cemeteries is a lost cause. You cannot preserve them unless you're going to live next door, purchase the land around it, and sit on the front porch and watch the developers, because they're going to bulldoze it, happening every day. Well, not every day. We lose in this county. Jill, how many cemeteries do we have in this county? Is it 1,000 or is it 890? Over 1,000, Jill says, of cemeteries in this county. They're being lost at the rate of not 50 a year, but certainly 12 a year. Wouldn't you say we lose about 12 cemeteries a year? Well, yeah. There's no witness. You got to have witness to have a case.
And the witnesses aren't talking.
And the witnesses won't talk because the landlord is the perpetrator. I had one case of that where the lady was having coffee in with her husband in the kitchen, and he said, "That sounds like a bulldozer next door." There was a graveyard next door. She said, "It does." She ran in the bedroom, got the movie camera, came to the back door, opened the door. There was the landowner pointing for the bulldozer driver to go ahead. He dropped his blade and moved. That case got into court. I was not personally involved. I just knew about it. And the people that were connected to that family, they had a brother there actually who had died during World War II. Were able to make the developer, the landowner, threatened them with jail sentences. I think they got suspended sentences for graveyard vandalism and had to replace all the tombstones. My wife had been there 2 years before and copied the stones that were there. So we had that list, and they called for it because they wanted it. And that happened in another case also in East Montgomery, where the landlord had to pay considerable sum because there were a lot of tombstones in that graveyard that had been copied. So preservation is these books. Preservation is the written word. You've got to get out there, get the information together, and unless you're going to live there right beside it, you're going to have trouble preserving it because you'll go back and it won't be there. Next. This is an interesting stone. Hard to read. In fact, I can't even read that from this angle. Looks like M.P. Jones, Jones. What's that word? And what's that box? Of C.C. Jones of Buckingham County, Virginia. What do we know about Buckingham County, Virginia? Anybody know anything about Buckingham County, Virginia? It's a burned county. There are no records in the courthouse. It was burned by you know who during that war. And so Buckingham has one book of records. It's everything that is known about Buckingham is in one book. But this tombstone in Robertson County, Tennessee, tells you this woman was born in Buckingham County and gives the date. It's a woman. But now, what does that word relic mean? Have you heard that word before? Have you heard the word consort before? Have you ever had a consort? You know, we think of consort as kind of a frolic, and you're frolicking with somebody if it's a consort. The judge might agree to that a consort is someone you consort with, right? And the lawyers might agree with that. But a concubine, but not so. In ancient times, you were either on the tombstone, you would see consort or relic. And actually, it's relict, R-E-L-I-C-T. And that's why the box, some smarty pants said, "Why, that's misspelled. It's not relic, there's no T on relic." Well, there is in this context. But he had it cut, he or she, I'm going to say he, had it cut out of the stone. So it now just says R-E-L-I-C. Relic, of course, means the one left behind, meaning the spouse is already dead. So you can learn that from this stone. That spouse is already dead when this person dies. Consort, on the other hand, is the opposite. The spouse is still living, and it's the consort that's dying. So the consort dies, spouse is still living. The relic dies, spouse is already dead because she or he is the relic, and he can be also a relic. So that's a word, an obsolete term, and a piece of useless information that only you people know. Next. This is what we used to do. This is from 1966, a crayon rubbing from 1966. We don't do that anymore. That cemetery has been obliterated. That stone no longer, it's gravel. It's now gravel. But it was a fine stone at one time. Sacred to the memory of William Hogan, Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Go ahead.
Did you do that, Cleo?
I did. Over in Stewart County, we have Molly, who is the second wife of Captain E.W. Williams. My cane is there telling you how tall it is. I forget how long that cane is, but it gives you a little reference. Molly is the second wife, no dates. Next. There's Captain E.W., the son of Elisha and Harlan Williams, no dates. What's he captain of? No clue. Cannot be found out. Keep going. and Betty, the first wife of Captain E.W. Williams. I had plans to spend a little bit of my fund money and take a stonemason out there and add the word nay, N-double-E. You know the word N-double-E in this context? What does N-double-E mean? Born. It means born. Nay is born. Nativity, in other words. Nay. Nay, Kimball, K-I-M-B-L-E. That is proven by the marriage record for each of those women, 2 sisters who married that man in Dover. Kimball was their name. Nobody knows that name. It does not survive. But there was a Judge Kimball here. His picture's in the courthouse. He was the grandfather. Yes, lots of them in Henry County. Who said that? Oh, I want to know that. I have not met them, but I've heard they're over there. And yes, they have the same DNA. But the Kimballs have left here. They lived at Hickory Point, and the judge came into town. And these are either his grandchildren or his great nieces. I've forgotten which. No descendants. One of them had 3 children, but they all died apparently. But this is at a place called, where is that? It's the Williams Cemetery on, somebody know the road? Link Highway in Stewart County. Potneck. Yes, near the river. I do want to put Nay Kimball at the bottom of those 2 stones. Yes, ma'am.
What was the symbol for died, like they died on, was the symbol like a dot, the letter?
Just the 2 dots. It's just punctuation. It really is nothing, no more than that. It's just punctuation. I shouldn't have said what I said. I've seen one case of that where there's all kinds of dots all over the stone, but I don't know why. It's not a common thing, but the stonemason did that. Next. That's just a funny stone. The best hunter is right there. Go on. This is in Riverview Cemetery in Clarksville. I think that has been removed. And I don't have a picture of the new stone. That's a Revolutionary War soldier from Clarksville who's buried in Riverview. Go on. We had a tour of, in 2011, Thomas Murph and myself and somebody else went on this tour. That's a bad picture, but it's the Revolutionary War soldiers that we could find easily, according to the DAR's records and a few records we put together, of Revolutionary War soldiers. There's your Holt, there's a couple of Holt cousins of mine here. There's your Holt, number 11. There's a Weekly down on Ironworkers Road. There's a Wheelis. Anybody ever heard that name, Wheelis, down at Hickory Point? Anybody heard the name Wheelis? I think it's extinct here, but Joseph Wheelis was a Revolutionary War soldier buried at Hickory Point. It has a nice tombstone. Because I got it from the government, was able to prove that, and we put the stone up at a big ceremony, and one descendant from Washington, D.C. came for the ceremony. Go ahead.
Behind the man's house who was not happy that we put the stone there. Ran his boat while we were there.
This is Mr. Zarella right here, that's before you tonight. Mr. Head is sitting over there with Mr. Murph, and these are some firemen from the Volunteer Fire Department at Sumner County. Am I doing something wrong? This is a new stone. Can we zoom on that, Bill? Will it zoom at all? Oh, okay. This is what we started with. A. Hogan, born and died. Little stone, it broke off, as you can see. And I decided that's my great-grandfather's brother, older brother. And I thought, we ought to do something about that. Is there another one, or can you back up? Can you enlarge that? I added a few pieces of information. His full name was Alexander Hogan. He's born in Montgomery County, Tennessee. The full date, and his first wife and his second wife and his death and his death date and who put the stone there. I finally decided, I want to tell people how these stones are getting put up, because I put up about 4 of them for this family. Go ahead. Go ahead. Once in a while, and I think this might be Johnny Head may know something about this. I think this picture may have been made at a place where there's a rumor, and it might be true, that certain burial spots have a tree planted at the head of the burial. And I'm speeding along. A tree buried there, and so this is actually a headstone or head tree, if you will, for that graveyard, because there's 2 graves the divining rod guy found right under those. And is that Winters? Is that Moses Winters?
Moses Winters and Elizabeth Head Winters in the yard at Wessington Plantation, if you know where Wessington House is in Robertson County.
Anybody ever been to Wessington House in Robertson County? Good, good. Well, in the yard now, as of what, 2 years ago? Was it 2?
Not more, I think.
About 4 years ago, there's now tombstones there for Moses and his wife, who was the head. I think that's where that is. Huge cedar trees, and of course the timber cutters like to cut them, and that happened to my cemetery. Go ahead. This is another stone I put up, but I decided to put a little information like his middle name, what county he was born in, and who his parents were, including the maiden name, and that he was an elder at the Presbyterian Church. That's what I'd want to find if I went to a cemetery, wouldn't you? You want to find out all that information? Well, here it is. Keep going. Same thing for his wife. She was a Rudolph. It took me forever to find that out. It's only recorded in one place on the planet, and that's in the McAdoo Church register. It gives her name and her parents' names, Jacob and Elizabeth Rudolph. And there's 2 or 3 Jacob Rudolphs. Keep going. What is that? Keep going.
That's Jim's mom right there.
Oh, that's that's which one? Bobo Cemetery. Do you know there are Bobos in this county? We had people named Bobo here. There was a road out there named Bobo. The Reverend Cheney Bobo was one of the first Methodist preachers in this area. He's buried in that cemetery, and that's Jim's mom and myself, and is that Jim right there? That's Jim, and I don't know his name, but Linda, Jim's mom, was standing there minding her business, and we were looking at papers, and she got a nudge from the rear.
Who's buried in front of you?
Rick Hollis.
That's Rick Hollis? Wow.
Yeah, right there. And so I didn't realize, I wasn't prepared for that, but neither was Linda. So we left soon after. There's a nice tombstone there. That's right by the interstate crossing near Mount Carmel Church.
Thomas.
Is that Thomas Murph
Is
there?
that you, Thomas?
The oldest stone we've ever seen in that cemetery, right? What's the date on it, Jim?
1816.
And that's the stone right there?
No, that's a little.
Reverend Cheney Bobo does not have a tombstone, but his daughter's stone reads this way, quote, on her left lies her worthy father, Reverend Cheney Bobo. The records show it C-H-A-N-A, but people called him Cheney, C-H-A-N-E-Y. Go ahead. These are ancient stones. We don't have any dates. What is that? Is that an E?
C.
E-M-A. That's in Fredonia, in the middle of Fredonia. If you know where Fredonia is. Does anybody know where Fredonia is? Anybody ever been there? This is a dangerous question, but have you ever been to the beer box? Where's that? There's a well-known establishment out there with a sign that's the beer box. I'm not real sure what goes on in there, but that's what it says on the sign. But this cemetery is walking distance from that location across the road. EMA, I can't find anybody with that name. This is before the late war of 1861. Keep going. Here's a very nice EB in that same cemetery. And it pops with flower. Keep going. I'm guessing these are some Bagwells, actually. If we had a Bagwell researcher, we could get somebody to figure this out. But I think this is some early Bagwells because they live right down the road. But there's the B. And that appears to be the top of a stone that's broken off down here. ECB. That may be the last one of those. Go ahead. That's an example, I think, that has nothing on it. Once in a while, you'll run across a stone and you'll put all kinds of flour on it because it's got little crevices and creases and stuff, but there's just no coherent letters on it. I think that's one of those. The brick house at Fredonia. Have any of you seen the brick plantation house there, the federal plantation house at Fredonia? Anybody seen that? 1824, Thomas Murph, did you say? 1824, there's a license to serve alcohol there or something at a house of entertainment, at a tavern in Fredonia. It's a two-story brick federal, Flemish bond on the front, common bond on the sides, all built at the same time. Vic Albright told me, came out and looked at it to see if it'd fall down or not. It's very sturdy upstairs. I was in one in Louisville that was not very sturdy upstairs and was scary. But this one was very sturdy and still is, and there's people living in it. But this is Sanford Wilson. He's halfway to the river. He owned all the land to the river, I think 3,000 acres from that house to the river. Pardon?
Note the name at the bottom, it's very bottom.
We'll get there. Sanford Wilson. There's two Sanfords and then two Samuels in a row, so there's four of them. This is born in 1789, died in 1848. Elizabeth, and I know what the T stands for, but I can't think of it right this minute. The wife of this, Sanford Wilson, she died in 1840 before he did. And what's that say right there? Can you read it? S. What was the stonemason marble salesman down by the courthouse?
Sam
Hodgson. That's S.H. Clarksville T.N. Sam Hodgson is one of the few signed tombstones I have seen in Montgomery County. One of the few, but I've not inventoried these big city cemeteries. I don't go there. I only go to the little lost, falling down ones. That's Sanford Wilson. There's a half a dozen graves there. Go ahead. That is a horizontal stone that's totally unreadable without a flower. Just illustrating the flower is absolutely essential. It says, in memory of E. Haynes, Haynes. This is some of my mother's people in West Virginia. Born NOV 22, and I think there's a year there somewhere, and then
Yeah, it says September 1848. That's SCP.
yeah, the SCPT is an afterthought above the 20 right here. Here's 20/1848. So she dies at 26 years old. And is buried there. There are 3 or 4 graves there from before 1850 or at or before 1850, a little country church. And we're probably near the end. Go ahead.
Yeah, you got 3 more slots.
3 more. You said that a while ago.
I said 10 more.
Here's William Hogan, and he's got a lot of lichen on that stone. We're running out of flour, which is why it's the way it is. 1774 to 1836. I think he died on a chew of tobacco, choked on it and died. He was a prominent fellow there in western North Carolina. Go ahead. And that is getting close to the end. That's yours truly's tombstone. If you want it like you want it, you better pay for it and put it up. And that's what I've done. Go ahead. Yep. So, questions? Any questions? Anybody have comments?
epitaph for your stone.
An epitaph? I told you I was sick. No, I don't. I just have my education on there. Because nobody ever went beyond the 8th grade in my family but me. Say that again.
Flour, you mentioned earlier that some of the experts say don't use flour. What else would you use?
D2, the D2 solution, you can order it online. It's D-2. I went to a seminar, actually I wore the name tag of this society about 15 years ago in order to get $5 off my registration. D2 was just coming out then. I had a small bottle of it. I've used that, I believe. It's too expensive to use extensively, and I have used a lot of flour over the years, so I have not used D2, but that is the recommended solution is D2. There is something similar to it out there that they also say is okay. If you can go, if you're into Google, look up the Association for Gravestone Studies, AGS, Association for Gravestone Studies. And they got all kinds of publications and whatnot. They put out an annual magazine or manual booklet about this subject, principally focused on really everywhere in the world. They've gone to China and they've gone to South America, but it's centered in New England.
Some people use shaving cream. It's quite a mess. So I would recommend that. The one time we did it, it was horrible. So we only use flour, you know.
Say again?
This man right here may know in the cabinet.
No, just plain flour, not self-rising. Don't mix it with anything, no. Just rub a handful of it, or take a handful of it, rub it on the stone.
I use a super magnet when I go, and also I use a spatula with Velcro, or what is it called? Teflon.
Teflon.
Just scrape off like that, and then I use the brush to get out in the grooves. But some cemeteries will not let me use flour. They just won't.
In this county?
And also, you can use a flashlight at an angle. Sometimes you can get it that way, or you can take a picture of it, and using your magic stuff on your phone, you can make it to where you can read it.
I've not had good luck with flashlights and going out there at night. I'm joking. You'd have to go in the dark to have much luck with flashlights. But yes, and there's even people who recommend mirrors and looking at the time of the day to be sure you've got the right angle for your mirror to get the right reflection and so forth. But that's just a lot of work, and I'm shocked to hear that there's a flour. Talk to me some more, that people object to flour. Talk to me some more about that. I'd like to know who it is that is thinking that flour is not suitable. If they're quoting these people at AGS, I can understand that. If most of these people I flour are relatives, although what you see here are lots of people in these pictures that were not lots of stones for people that were not relatives, but there were people nearby that I was studying the family. And they were absolutely abandoned grave markers. No one had been to those grave markers in 100 years in many cases. No one. Nobody cares. Yes.
Talking about the bulldozers going over there, pushing over gravestones and, doing that for a buck. They go a lot deeper than just topsoil. So what happens to the bodies or the bones or what's left? What happens to that?
Good question. And you got the right guy to answer it. That'll be Reese Bagwell. The law is that one must go into court and get a court order allowing the cemetery to be condemned and removed. That was done across Red River on whether that's Pettus or College or Wilma Rudolph, I'm not sure anymore, but when you cross the river going toward St. Bethlehem, I don't know whose property is up there, but Henderson Hawley, that's what I was about to say. Henderson Hawley Cemetery was a perfect example of that. They got a court order to remove the cemetery. A lawyer here did it for them. I had no connection with it, but it was done, and my wife and I had been out there. It was grown up. This is on the left going up the hill when you cross Red River. There's car lots or something up there now, I believe, I'm not sure. And we copied the cemetery, flower and all, about 4 or 6 stones as I recall, 5 stones. I'm close. The archivist says 5. So they did get the court order, and they hired a funeral home here to remove the bodies. Well, I can't testify that the bodies were removed. I can testify that 4 stones were removed. They are at Sango Cemetery. They bought a lot at Sango Cemetery and put those 4 stones, maybe 4 lots, but certainly 2 lots. If you drive along the Sango Cemetery on the what is that? Going north in front of the Presbyterian Church, you'll see those ancient stones that are way older than Sango Cemetery. Sango Cemetery is like 1870 or something. But these stones are 1840s, I think, 40s or 50s. The Henderson and Hawley family. And they advertised in the newspaper for relatives and heirs and all that, and none showed up, which they have, that's why they have to do that. So nobody showed up, you abandoned it, you left it, whatever happens, happens. And so they removed the stones and put them in Sango Cemetery. I've never known, and I've been keeping my eye as I go by there every time, which is not real often, but I do go by there to see if they've done any bulldozing there, and I have not seen that they've done any bulldozing there. It's still vacant land right at this minute. The only way you know this is you go, if you get out of your car, park somewhere there, get out of your car, there is an intersection at the top of the hill, park over there somewhere, and walk back along the side of the road. There's a curb along the side of the road where the cemetery was. And it's not a city block long, not even half a city block. It's probably the length of this building, not any more than the length of this building. There's a curb, a concrete curb there in the side of the road. That's where that cemetery was, on that little bank, and the little bank is still there. Now, whether they removed the graves or not, I don't know. One of the graves we went back there after the supposed removal. We found one hole that had some bricks in it. It was a round hole with some bricks in it. That's all that was there. Probably a month after I discovered the stones at Sango Cemetery for Henderson and Hawley. So that happened. But let me mention one other thing. It's kind of funny. There's a cemetery out on the north side near a church, an Oriental church, an Asian church. And we found a cemetery in the bushes back there. There's a lot of bushes back there, and I think they may have called somebody and said, there's a graveyard back here. There's a few stones in it, half a dozen at least. And so several of us went out there to look, and sure enough, and they got it cleaned up and so forth. And the lady from the church came out and said, "Where are the relatives of these people?" And we said, "We don't know. They've left the area." It's an old cemetery, like pre-antebellum, maybe before 1861. And Allensworth was one of the names. One of the early Allensworths is there. And I can't remember the others, but she said, well, didn't they take their relatives with them when they left? I didn't realize we were supposed to do that. When you just dig up your relatives and put them in a bag and take them with you. That's precisely what she was thinking. But somebody had a question back here. Oh, there.
Do you or Thomas have any record of a cemetery existing where Greenwood is now prior to the cemetery? We have a headstone there that is marked 1816, and it's the only one that is marked that early. Greenwood did not open until after the Civil War, 1872, 3.
Not of those graves that we go to move the old citizens back. So if they move the grave, it probably stop.
Could you tell if it had been put there more recently, or do you think it's been there 100?
It's been there for a while.
But has it been there 100 years?
No way to tell.
Yeah, I'd like to look at it. I'm not familiar with that story, no, but I'm going to bet what Ms. Mann says is exactly what happened.
That's why they don't know where graves exist in the cemetery, because they don't have records
Right.
of the graves that were moved. The common families, on the more grave sites, moved their deceased relatives from the citizens.
Right, they did. They moved a lot of those from several different cemeteries in. I can't remember the name of the family, but there's one family that must have 10 or 12, probably 12 graves, nice tombstones right down from the Confederate monument straight ahead back there towards, straight ahead. And I was with somebody there, and they said, yeah, that's my family that was moved there from out in the country. So that was a thing. They encouraged it to buy lots and move people there.
And Trinity Cemetery moved all their people.
Right.
Either.
Trinity Church did that too, the early Trinity Church. Mr. Baker?
Cleo, the desecration of a graveyard and the surface materials and that sort of thing is a Class A misdemeanor. But the desecration of, to answer this gentleman's question, the desecration of the remains of the human body buried there is a Class E felony. So there's a significant difference there. So that's a good question.
Yes, I think.
Also, one other thing, there is some federal money available for, if you discover a graveyard and you have some authority or know somebody has some authority to move it or relocate it. There are a lot of preconditions to it, but there is some federal money available to do it.
Not familiar with that, but that's good to hear. Yes, sir.
You know, everybody in here probably knows the fact that when the first people started coming in here buying the land, they had their own family cemetery. And so many of them have disappeared, you know, over the years. And 1970s, I can remember one big construction company that came in and off Carter Road destroyed a whole family cemetery. Well, this family that had their relatives in the cemetery lived in either Indiana or Illinois, and every holiday they would come and gather and put flowers on the graves. It was on the front page of the Clarksville Police Chronicle. The company destroyed the cemetery and the 3 houses that are built on that cemetery presently, even today, and nothing like this fine young gentleman said over here. Nothing has ever been done to anybody that I know of that has desecrated any stone or the cemetery.
Never can find a witness.
There is a house off of Dover Road that when you go into the home and you look around in the fireplaces that are in this house, it's got tombstones in the fireplaces. You know why?
I'm trying to think of, the fellow who had the school out in North Clarksville, Tyler. That,
John Duke Power.
that John Duke Tyler's, family cemetery, I believe, has suffered that same fate.
Yes,
It's just been,
developer got in.
pardon?
A developer got in.
Who got it?
A developer.
Developer, yes. Yes, that's the right word, the developer. It's those real estate people again. Maggots, I'm sorry, magnets, not maggots. Any other kind of questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Are you aware of any Confederate cemeteries in the subdivision of Bel Air subdivision here in Clarksville? I'm told that there was one there many years ago.
Bel Air.
Bel Air
Where's,
subdivision.
oh, that's out Fort Campbell Boulevard.
Yes.
Jill might know about that. Jill, Confederate cemeteries in Bel Air. Bel Air. Yeah, I wanted to challenge you all before we end here. Excuse me, we're 20 minutes over my time. Excuse me, but I brought some sticky notes. If you are one of those persons sitting out there that says, well, I know where a cemetery that they don't know about. Nobody knows about that but me. I have some sticky notes here. I want you to come put your name and phone number and the location or the name of a stone in that cemetery, or if it doesn't have any names, say that too. Because the archives has a tremendous file of such things, a very nice map that Jill has put together, and she's got a notebook full of stuff before she retired out there that has all of the cemeteries that anybody's ever heard of in this county in that collection. So you're invited to go to the archives and view that collection of tombstones that are there and the location of the cemeteries that are there. We think, she says now, up to 1,000 cemeteries in this county. They had 1,000 in Davidson County, didn't they? They have more people than we do. Where are they now? You know who got them? Those magnets. Other comments? One more question or comment? If not, thank you so much for coming out.
I think we can all agree that what he spoke about tonight is applicable to everybody that has a family cemetery and the concerns that we have for preserving those cemeteries. But we thank you so much. Thank you so much, not only for our presentation tonight, but for all the work that you've done through the decades to preserve these cemeteries. Thank you so much.
I was just going to share, you shared what your epitaph was going to be. I told you I was sick. Well, years ago, you nominated a second one that you told me about. You said you were going to have on your stone, here lies an honest gentleman and an attorney, and people would be confused thinking there were two people in the grave. Thank y'all for coming tonight.